back. WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. I'm in the home studio, Baltimore, Maryland, where we are awaiting the beginning of a football season, and maybe the Orioles will win a game this month. I don't know, but Luke Jones was watching all things football all weekend long and laboring, I might add. Ravens are kind of laboring a little bit, right? I mean, if you're a fan looking at this, you're like, all right, what is this? And I think that's true in 32 NFL cities and parts of Europe, right? Like this stuff's such trash that I every year, but this is even worse, right? When your quarterback doesn't play, there's 3 games, not 4. There's no tradition. We had all sorts of weird mismatches all weekend with A teams and B teams and B teams and C teams and second teams and third teams, and then injuries. It must be the end of August, Luke. We're talking about guys being injured for the year from stupid fake football games.
Yeah, and I mean, you have some of that in training camp as well. Let's just keep in mind, there's going to be attrition. There are going to be injuries, but it does hurt a little bit more this time of year. I mean, we'll start right off the bat. LJ Fort lost for the season with the torn ACL about midway through the second quarter, and it's unfortunate. I think everyone knows Patrick Queen, Malik Harrison, the Ravens envision as being the future at inside linebacker, but go back and look at last year. I mean, Patrick Queen, we talked about it a lot, up and down. You saw the potential, but then you saw the struggles in pass coverage. You saw the struggles shedding blocking. You saw the struggles in saying that, okay, he has first-round talent, but he's not a first-round player just yet. So Malik Harrison, guy who looked good on early downs, but a guy who's still learning to be a potential 3-down linebacker. LJ Fort was quietly their most consistent inside linebacker last year. And as much as he wasn't going to necessarily be starting this year or playing every single snap, which he didn't do last year. I mean, they rotate their guys. He still had a place here. And as I wrote at BaltimorePositive.com, he was the safety net of that group last year. We talked about it the year before when it was Ford and Josh Bynes who came in and slowed things down for a group that, frankly, the rest of those guys aren't here anymore even.
Well, I didn't want to call him a savior 2 years ago, but what the doctor ordered, sure, for that team and that at that particular time, what the doctor ordered. They needed those 2 football players 2 years ago.
Right. And I think with Fort, I'm not going to say they need them necessarily in the sense that if Patrick Queen and Malik Harrison take the steps forward that the Ravens want to see them take, then great. They're your starting inside linebackers. You still have Chris Board, who's going to play in some sub packages, and they ran kind of that hybrid dime package last year where he would come in as kind of a hybrid,
almost like a second special teams player, linebacker,
good leader,
or like a second of strong safety, is like in the old days, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, a guy who held up pretty well in coverage, played really well against the run last year. So this hurts. We're not sitting here talking about this being season altering, but I'll say this: their depth at inside linebacker now doesn't look as it's a lot more tenuous now. If you get one
now
more
they need
injury,
to go find another LJ Ford or Josh Bynes for this team.
I was just going to say they don't need a starter because it was trending that Malik Harrison was going to be starting next to Patrick Queen anyway. That from the first day of training camp, that's what we've seen. But I think Eric DeCosta is going to at least be on the lookout. Doesn't mean that they need to make a trade or trade a draft pick or something like that. But I'm guessing if they can find, as you said, another LJ Ford, another Josh Bynes like linebacker that hits the open market, because that's what happens this time of year, especially guys that are making a little more money than a team wants to pay them from a cap standpoint, then we'll see them add. So again, not season altering, not something where you're saying, oh my gosh, what are they going to do? But it leaves that position group that I thought was in pretty darn good shape when you looked at their top 4 and the way that all those guys played in various packages last year. It does leave your depth looking a little shaky there. And now it's not a case of having high hopes that Patrick Queen and Malik Harrison step forward. Now they need to step forward, because if they don't, and it's more like what we saw last year, then inside linebacker becomes a little more problematic because you don't have Fort, who brought such a high floor to that position.
I was thinking about that guy that they had from Jacksonville. I never remember his name. He wore 51, I think, after Ray Lewis left. What was his name?
Daryl Smith.
Daryl Smith.
His nickname, right? They called him Buck, but yeah, I mean, he was They signed him right around when they visited the White House, if you recall, at the beginning of June. So you're talking, they paid him $1 million, $1.5 million. I mean, nothing of real substance. And he was terrific for them. He bridged that gap nicely from Ray Lewis to C.J. Mosley. Because if you recall, Arthur Brown, who they had drafted in 2013, that didn't work out at all. So yeah, if you can, I don't think they need to find Darryl Smith as far as he doesn't have to be that high caliber, because they don't need a starter, but you need a guy that has played some football, can do some things for you in different sub packages, and just, again, raise the floor a little bit of that group where you're counting on so many young guys.
Luke Jones is here discussing yet another Ravens preseason victory. It is uncanny. I was out on a boat going out to Smith Island. It's hour and a half to get out there, hour and a half to get back. Delicious cake that I would share with you, Luke, but it's disappearing with the Rofo coffee, quite frankly, as we speak. And one of the guys on the boat got to talking to me about the Ravens in preseason. He's like, and he didn't know that John Harbaugh comes on our show. He just was talking sports with me because I was wearing a Raven shirt, which I want to do on summer days. And he said, that John Harbaugh, he likes to win every game all the time. And I looked at him and I'm like, we're out in the middle of this straight in the middle, water 100 feet deep. And I looked at him, I'm like, dude, you have no idea. But I don't think that factors in, I don't know why I would bet on the Ravens in preseason games other than the fact that they win. But it's moved past the point of uncanny. Teams aren't supposed to win 20 games in a row ever, right?
It's absurd. I mean, it's absurd. And I'm not saying that to be disparaging, because Lamar Jackson hasn't started these first two preseason games, hasn't played. I mean, it's been Tyler Huntley. It was Trace McSorley game one and Tyler Huntley going the distance. You look at the number of veteran players they've held out, either because of injury or guys that they just decided to hold out. I said this a little bit when we talked the New Orleans game, and it rings true once again. I mean, let's face it. Have we really learned much of anything from the offensive side of the ball over these first two preseason games? No. Maybe you could look at Tyson Williams as maybe the third running back. Josh Oliver had a nice night, looking like he's going to be the number 3 tight end behind Andrews and Boyle. Beyond that, okay, the offensive line wasn't as disastrous as it was week one, but it's not as though they moved the ball that particularly well in the first half of this game on Saturday night. So you've learned less than you normally learn in the preseason about this offense at this point. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful to anyone out there, but I mean, there's no Lamar Jackson, no Mark Andrews, no Sammy Watkins, no Marquise Brown, no Rashad Bateman, no Ronnie Stanley. I mean, go down the list of guys that weren't out there on Saturday night. But, and this is where I come back to why this team has been able to somehow win 19 preseason games in a row. You look at the defensive side of the ball. And from quarter one through the fourth quarter, and acknowledging, hey, Sam Darnold played one series, Christian McCaffrey not playing. It's not as though the Panthers, who by the way were 5-11 last year, it's not as though we're talking about a team that was great
he is
last
Sam
year.
Darnold. You know what I mean? He would be starting for a lot of other teams because he'd be the backup.
Right. And he didn't even play. So we're talking about the backups. He played one series. So we're talking about the backups to Sam Darnold. So you keep that in mind. But the defensive depth on this roster, specifically looking in the secondary, and I think that came to fruition once again. I mean, you saw Chuck Clark and Deshaun Elliott do their thing. First couple drives, I think they combined for 7 tackles. They had combined for a sack, 2 or 3 tackles for a loss, a forced fumble. I mean, they were all over the field. I mean, Deshaun Elliott back-to-back big plays on the goal line stand in the first quarter. But then you get to that next tier of guys, and you see guys like Nigel Warrior making plays, and go down the list. I mean, they just have so much defensive depth, and even guys that aren't going to be on this roster, maybe guys that are going to be on the practice squad, for example, their second and third string guys on defense have consistently over these last 5 years, where we're talking about this crazy preseason streak, have been not just better than the opposition's second and third team offenses. They've been markedly, dramatically better. And if you look, I mean, look at Saturday night's game. It was 3-3. The Ravens hit a field goal at the end of the first half to tie it. It was an even, boring first half of football. Second half, the defense absolutely smothered Carolina's second and third string guys. And it's not as though, again, it's not like the Ravens are playing their starters in the fourth quarter or anything crazy like that, but it just speaks to the organization's ability to, specifically on the defensive side of the ball, identify talent, bring it into the organization, whether, not even talking free agents, not even talking high draft picks. I'm talking about day 3 draft picks and priority free agents and undrafted free agents. Even a guy like Chris Westry, who was on Dallas's practice squad last year, he's a reserve future signing in January, and a guy I think is going to be on the 53-man roster because he's a 6'4" corner who's played well from day 1 of OTAs. But they just find a lot of defensive talent, from all these different avenues, and they come in the summer and look, we know which guys, ultimately they're going to have a 53-man roster and they'll have 24, 25, whatever the final number of defensive players on the 53-man roster, and a handful more on the practice squad. And then there'll be some other guys that will go on and find some modest success elsewhere. We've seen that as well. So it's really just a credit to the organization that they find that talent, and then a credit to John Harbaugh and his defensive coaching staff specifically, that they've been able to cultivate these guys from a talent standpoint, get them playing a Ravens brand of football, even if it's August. And again, a 19-game winning streak. It sounds nice to say, hey, they matched Vince Lombardi and the Packers. Well, over this stretch, they've won 1 playoff game. So it hasn't equated to becoming a dynasty, but it does reflect preparation in the offseason, preparation in the summer, and getting these guys to play at a high level, even in a fake football game.
Hey, by the way, let's give Wink some love here, right? We don't talk about Wink or here. Wink's made this thing sort of fun, bringing in Rob Ryan, that whole Rex. There's enough Rexification that John likes it, and there's certainly enough. This is a fun defense for you to play in. You're going to get your crack at a quarterback. You're going to get your crack at an interception. You're going to get your crack at making a play and making a tackle and being a star, because it isn't the defense built around Ray Lewis or built around any one thing. There really is a chance for LJ Fort to make plays if he can get on the field and be one of the 11 on any given play. I think that there is some sensitivity to that they know they're not 11 deep or 13 deep. They almost feel like they need to be 16 to 18 deep in various ways, because 18 guys are going to play on any given Sunday. A nice, healthy percentage, 25, 30% of the snaps. 18 guys are going to get in on that, because nobody's playing 85% of the snaps, probably except for Queen and maybe Humphrey, right?
Yeah, I mean, the members of their secondary, when you talk about their 2 starting safeties and their 2 outside corners, Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey, and of course, Humphrey sat out, dealing with a minor groin strain. So they're clearly going to be very careful with him.
There are no minor groin strains.
That's fair. That's fair.
I've never had one.
That is fair. That's touche on that one. You're
having
absolutely
a small
right.
batch of COVID. You know what I mean? You either have COVID or you don't. It's not good.
Right. But you're talking about a core group of, and I think Queen could get into that group, but even last year he played 80% of the snaps, and I think some of that was probably conditioning, and he's even talked about that. Wink even alluded to that a little bit with the kind of unprecedented no off season last year, but also with him, his pass coverage wasn't up to snuff the way that it needed to be, certainly out of a first round pick that you're expecting. But you do look at those 4 core members of the secondary, but everyone else, yeah, they're going to rotate in. They're going to rotate in 4 or 5 defensive linemen. They're going to use 5 outside linebackers. They're going to use, it was going to be 4 with LJ Fort. At the very least, still going to be 3 inside linebackers that they're rotating in. They're going to have their 4 core members of the secondary, but then there's also Tavon Young, Jimmy Smith when he's healthy. I think we're going to see Brandon Stevens, the rookie 3rd-round safety, who will play some nickel. I could see him playing some deep safety if they want to drop Chuck Clark into the box or Deshaun Elliott into the box for the dime package. My point is, and it's just backing up what you said, yeah, you're having 17, 18 guys that are going to play. They're all going to play a significant non-zero number of snaps. I mean, we're not talking about a guy that's going to get 2 snaps and, if they're up by 2 touchdowns with a minute to go. I mean, we're not talking about that. We're talking about guys that if they're active, they're going to play. I mean, even the guys at the back end of that list are probably going to play 10 to 12 snaps, let's say, so it really does They need that depth. And the one thing I would say, you mentioned them not having that strength. The strength is their secondary. I mean, that's really where it begins. It's where the resources have been invested in terms of dollars. You look at what Humphrey's making. You look at what Marcus Peters is making. You look at what they were paying Earl Thomas, even though that clearly didn't work out and he's no longer here. But that's where their strength is. They can cover. They're going to play a lot of man coverage. And then that allows you to do what up front? Send numbers, play games with your defensive line in terms of deception, whether they're going to blitz two guys, whether they're going to show blitz and bring four, but it's not going to be the four that you would expect as a conventional defensive front. They're going to do all those things. And it really is a credit to Wink Martindale when you look over these last few off seasons. Look at the pass rushers specifically. We've talked so much about the pass rush, but Za'Darius Smith, Terrell Suggs, even though Suggs was at the end of his career, Matthew Judon now, Yannick Ngakoue. I mean, you're talking about guys that have either been in the Pro Bowl or, in the case of Za'Darius Smith, went on to become a Pro Bowl player in Green Bay, and they've made their pass rush work. We talk about it every year, and we're saying, well, their pass rush, I don't know if it's going to be good enough.
Well, you say they're a product of the system until Za'Darius Smith goes to Green Bay and over exceeds a contract. I don't know that that's ever happened. I don't know there's ever been a guy paid that much that actually went and played to that number in 26 years of doing this.
And I mean, maybe there have been some guys, Bart Scott had at least one great year with the Jets. Adalys Thomas had one great year with the Patriots, but you're right. It's been fleeting. And then it's like, you're looking at it and say, okay, well, Ray Lewis got someone else paid, right? Ed Reed got someone else paid. We talked about that narrative for years. Maybe we didn't really need
Paul Kruger or Art Jones in this defense.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Well, and the teams that ended up throwing big money at them agreed after a year or two. But again, it speaks to what they do. They have a lot of conviction in what they do. It's worked beautifully against everyone but Kansas City. And guess what? That's everyone that's played Kansas City over the last few years, other than Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl in February, have kind of been in the same boat. So I think they totally believe in what they do. I think they're hopeful that Justin Houston has another decent season left. In the meantime, he's going to mentor Odafe Oweh. And you saw Dalen Hayes flash once again, that nice dip move coming off the edge as a guy wasn't a heralded pass rusher at Notre Dame, but looks like he could have some juice as a rotational guy for them. Maybe not week one, but maybe as you get deeper into the year and you're leaning on some of your younger guys or some of your role players a little bit more. So again, it just speaks to the depth that they have defensively, and especially right now with where their offense is. Not that I think anyone should be pressing the panic button at this point, but it's such an unknown because the offensive line hasn't played together, hasn't practiced together. Lamar hasn't played in a preseason game yet. I'm not so hot and bothered about that. But Bateman, misses virtually the entire summer now with the groin surgery, and we'll see when he's back. Sammy Watkins has been in and out of practice. Marquise Brown has been out since the second day of training camp. So I think realistically now, as we're, believe it or not, 3 weeks out from the opener, it's crazy to think that. I mean, it's upon us. It's going to be here before we know it. I think it's fair to suggest their passing game, whatever their ceiling is for 2021, probably not going to manifest in week one. I think we can all agree on that at this point. Probably, although I would have said the same thing about Marquise Brown 2 years ago, and he had over 100 receiving yards in his first half of his NFL game. But assuming they're not going to have that going, they're going to lean on what they do best, which is run the football. And I think they're really going to depend on their defense to play at a really high level. Now, we'll see. I'm pretty confident that'll be good enough against the Las Vegas Raiders in week one. We'll see what that means against Kansas City in week two. And keep in mind, the Chiefs aren't going to necessarily be firing on all cylinders. It's early in the season. So, we'll see. But I think at the same time, what you've seen from the defense, even with some veteran players being held out here and there, it gives you some confidence that even if their offense is a little off early in the season, that defense is going to be playing at a high level. And if they can run the ball the way they've run the ball so consistently, so dramatically well, ever since Lamar Jackson took over for Joe Flacco, then I think that'll be good enough, at least in the month of September. And then we'll see what that passing game looks like as we get deeper into the season. And you hope you get Rashad Bateman back and you're able to keep your offense healthier than they've been able to do over the course of training camp in the preseason.
I will miss the crab cake tour and miss Chicken Palooza when it's all over with. I'm actually going to go to Costas and to Fadley's the next couple days here in this week. I need to get Baltimore County and Baltimore City represented. Luke, I'm going to ask you a little social studies question. You can get it wrong. I'm not looking to embarrass you, but do you know how many counties there are in Baltimore? Or excuse me, Maryland?
I was going to say counties in Baltimore. I don't.
Well, the counties and then Baltimore City that make up the state. I thought the number was 21. I don't know. I just thought like if it was a Jeopardy question, I would have said, what is 21? It's 23 counties and the
Okay.
city of Baltimore. So there's 24
Yeah.
municipalities. And, don't get me naming every Charles and Talbot and Queen Anne's that I've had a crab cake in, and Worcester and Wycomico and Somerset and Dorchester. But I'm learning them, right? Cecil and Hartford and Carroll. And I'm going out to Washington and Garrett and Frederick. I'm doing all that. So I'm doing the crab cakes, and I'm not sick of it yet. I just want you to know
Good.
that because you were really worried about me.
I don't know if I'd say I was worried about you, but that's a lot of crab cakes, and there are great crab cakes, and there are good
I had
crab
a steak
cakes,
the
and
other
there.
night. The Beaumont Open in Catonsville.
Yeah.
I went out. Evan insisted that I take this tomahawk thing home to my wife, and we sat here at 10 o'clock a day. Dude, I've gained like 10 pounds. Like, I know my hair doesn't look like it. I mean, I still look thin, but bless me, Father, there have been potato chips and potato wedges and potatoes and mashed potatoes and jacket potatoes and fried potatoes. I knew I was getting fat, and I still went to Thrashers anyway on Saturday because I'm at Ocean City, and it's like what you do. So, like, if you were in Wildwood for a month, how much Max Pizza would you eat?
I'll plead the fifth on that. They would be giving me a piece of the business. I would be there that often. I mean, I think I figured it out some years because we're usually there 10 days, and I've figured out some years I've eaten. We'll just say multiple pies over the course of a full 10 days. So,
Well, I mean,
so I can understand. And Thrashers fits. I'm not a frequent visitor to Ocean City, but yeah, I mean, go to OC. Of
what my wife
course.
figured out? She took all the vinegar from the Lord of the Fries and she like put it on, and she only put it on the top. And she didn't think I liked it. I'm like, no, you could put more on. And we were there in front of the guy, and she puts more on, she puts more on, she puts more on. And then we get like 2/3 of the way through, and we're like, well, maybe we don't need to eat all these because we asked for this big, he gave us this big, and now we're down to like this big. And then you realize all the vinegar settles at the bottom, and that's when it really gets good, right? So I just ate too much bread and potatoes, and I had cream of crab this and Maryland crab that, and it's been insane. So this week we're winding down. I'm going west, but I am making time for baseball, Luke, and we're going to talk about that in the next segment. Shohei Ohtani in town this week. Ravens, Redskin, Washington football team. I had Michael Steele on last week. Ben Carden stopped by in Ocean City at Mako. My wife and I had a lovely white tablecloth dinner on Saturday at the Hobbit in Ocean City. I had Sauvignon Blanc. So, I didn't order it. They just brought it and went to crab cake, and it won't be the last time I have Sauvignon Blanc. By the way, you can buy Sauvignon Blanc in the Royal Farms in like lots of places on the Eastern Shore. Like I went into another place. They had like a great selection of wine in Cambridge, which I didn't buy it, but I'm like, I filed it. I'm like, it's good to know what Royal Farms does. So our sponsors have been great. Wise Markets has been unbelievable. We picked up watermelon, picked up fruit. We're going to stop by the Frostburg location. Our friends at Planet Fitness have been incredibly supportive. They have a Salisbury location. They also have a Cumberland location with a superstar of a guy there. So we're going to be picking that up later on in the week. I'm going fly fishing with one of my idols, Dan Rodricks, one of my dear friends. He's going to teach me to fly fish on Friday with waders on in the Savage River. And I have, Luke, 4 pieces of Smith Island cake made by Miss Mary Ada Marshall and her son Duke. I had a crab cake on Tylerton, on Drum Point, on Smith Island. It took an hour and a half on a boat doing 4 knots to get out there on Sunday. Dude, it's been a doozy, but I'm coming home and I'm ready for football season. So Don't disappoint me. Tell them they need to win. Tell them I haven't been around. I've left them alone, but I'm coming in full bore in September for this football thing. And I think the one thing I would say, and we'll talk some more about this, it's just a lot of unknowns right now if you're a fan, right? Like, I mean, this has been garbage to watch, pay attention to. But on Monday night, when they kick off in Vegas, that's what we're all trying to figure out what we're going to see, right?
Yeah, and I think just because there's unknown doesn't mean that changes the expectations. I fully expect this to be a playoff team. I'm picking this team to win the AFC North. I'm not burying Pittsburgh, but I've got my concerns about Pittsburgh more than I have in a long time. Cleveland, you love the talent on paper, but it's the Browns. How did they handle their success last year? Are they satisfied with it and they start smelling their own brand? Or are they hungry? And if they're hungry and they're focused and they're ready to take it to the next level, then I think the Ravens are going to have a heck of a dogfight, no pun intended, against the Browns for the division. But with all the questions that we mentioned, this is still a heck of a football team. And just because we haven't seen Lamar Jackson over the first two preseason
we haven't
games,
seen any of the starting quarterbacks.
right. I mean, that's the thing. You've seen some, and even guys you've seen. I mean, Patrick
Whatever
Mahomes.
You see, they hand off.
Right. I
mean, 6 plays and they take their pads off, and that's every August. So that's why I'm not Chicken Little.
Yeah.
But the rest of the team, there's a lot to be said here for what they want and what they've gotten out of August, and especially with the wide receiver position after 9 months. Luke, we'll take a break. I want to come back. We're going to talk more. I've talked to so many people. My wife did a long segment on the tour. Ben Carden and I did H-2B, visas, and J-1. Ben Carden was great, man. He threatened to sue people, Luke, who were misrepresenting a Maryland crab cake, taking some foul, fake, fishy meat and putting Maryland and calling it a Maryland crab cake. Ben Carden threatened to sue. So I figured I was in the right place with him on Friday. So you can go check all that out at Baltimore Positive. Everything Luke is doing in Owings Mills. I don't know. He went to the baseball game on Friday. It's your fault they keep losing. We'll talk to him. Shohei Ohtani's in town. We got great things going on, great crab cakes, heading west, talking football with Luke. Stay tuned. I'm Nestor. He's Luke. Baltimore Luke finds him. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. And we never stop talking. Baltimore Positive.